Hi everybody, my name is Brady, and today we're going to be doing something a little bit different. I am testing out the tier list format. It's not a very popular format anymore, but it was popular not that long ago, and I'm going to be jumping on that. So today we're going to be doing something a little bit inconsequential, near and dear to my heart though, facial hair. More specifically, presidential facial hair. We have a couple hands full of American presidents who rocked facial hair. Some of them helped, some of them maybe it didn't, but the visual presentation of a president is a very interesting conversation, and we don't have a lot of politicians wearing facial hair anymore. So, if they were to bring it back, where should they get inspiration from when it comes to the old presidents? Because that's a great place to look. So, let's get this started and see where they rank between S, which is like perfect, and F in the case where like the facial hair actually hurts their look more than it helps. Yeah, let's get it started. First of all, we have a little bit of an outlier here. We have Harry Truman, who I actually probably shouldn't have included on this list. It's not really part of his main look, but apparently he had facial hair at one point. There's a couple pictures in existence of him with facial hair, but it's not really part of his main look that we know him for. So I'm putting him at F, but if I could, I would have put him in a category that basically says doesn't count. Harry Truman does not count. So there we go. So let's get to the actual presidents who are known for their facial hair. So we got beards, mustaches, sideburns, we got chops, we got all sorts of stuff going on. I don't even know where to start. I guess an easy one to go for. Let's define what bad facial hair is. I think Zachary Taylor is one of the cases where there's not that much going on with his facial hair, and what he has isn't really that good. I know what it's like to have messy facial hair. I know a thing or two about that. But Zachary Taylor, he was an unkempt looking person. And they're like sideburns, but they don't really go down all that much. Like you talk about John Quincy Adams, he's got the chops. They go down all the way, and he's committing to something. This hardly counts. I think I would put this on the lower tier. I think Truman is the not count guy, and Taylor is just, it's not that good. It doesn't add anything in particular there. There's nothing really distinguishing about that facial hair. You could barely call it facial hair. All right, so who goes above them? Let's think about D. We've got a lot of presidents who have some decent facial hair. Actually, let's find one that's like decent, like middle of the road. I think Grant has some pretty good facial hair. I do think so. I think he's got something pretty darn good going for him, but I don't think it's the best. I think it's very consistent looking. It's just like, it's very clean. I think that's got to be at least a B tier beard he's got going on here. It's not super distinguishable. Like it's a very standard, clean looking beard. I am tempted to put him in A tier because it is just a solid looking beard, but I think that's B tier right here. So that's going to set the standard for what it means to be B tier. So that's a good one. Once you start getting into C or lower, it may be okay. Like C can still be like okay. I think Abraham Lincoln's beard is definitely overrated. I'd put him in D because when you look at him, it's not that great of a beard. It's iconic. He does have that going for him. He has a very distinguishable look. When you see Abraham Lincoln, you know it's Abraham Lincoln. But if we get past that, if we get past all the conditioning we've had towards Abraham Lincoln, it's not that great. It's not the cleanest looking beard, and I guess one of the big issues is he doesn't have really the prettiest face, and he was aware of the fact that he didn't have the prettiest face. And the beard was kind of to cover up some of his less than pretty features. But yeah, it's not the best. I'd say he would actually land a lot lower than many people would put him. I'd imagine people would put him a little higher because of that iconic nature to it, but no, Lincoln, I think he's a good example of kind of a lower tier beard. I think his charisma whatever charisma he seems to have that transcends history, I think it goes beyond the beard for me, though a lot of people will associate it with the beard. All right. Another person who I think has a decent one that I'm not sure about right now is Benjamin Harrison. He's kind of got that old man, little grandpa looking beard. It's similar quality to Grant's. It seems to be a little bit thicker, but it seems to be very clean and well taken care of in this case. So I would say he has to be at least B tier with Grant. They both have pretty good qualities to them. His is like snow white from the looks of it, while Grant's, it seems to have a little bit more salt and pepper in it. And I like the salt and pepper beard, but I'm going to put them kind of at the same tier. So right now we've mostly done beards, and we've got like one case of sideburns here. So let's see what else we've got. I think if we're looking at sideburns, we've got to go to John Quincy Adams and Van Buren. Not just sideburns, the chops. They go like all the way down the face. So Van Buren, he is very distinguishable. I think he stands out very well. It kind of gives me Mad Genius vibes. So he's got that going for him. I think John Quincy Adams has like one of the best examples of the chops. I think if you like the chops, that is top tier chops. So I'd have to put him pretty high. However, I don't think chops are like one of my favorite forms of facial hair. So I don't think I could give it like an S tier, even though it is probably the best example of them. So it would be B or A. If I think it is like the best case for the chops, that's that. But if you are not as much a fan, you might put him a little bit lower. Maybe put him in B, C, or if you really don't like them, you might put him even lower. But I actually do like the look. And I think when he got a little bit more grizzled, like you see some of the early pictures of him as a baby face, and he's not really that commanding. But once he grew those out, it added so much to, I guess, my impression of him. When I see that picture, it says so much more than a younger picture of him did. With Lincoln, if you see him without the beard, it can be a little jarring because you're so used to it and you're so overexposed to Lincoln, but I don't think it changes how commanding he is by enough to justify putting him higher. But I'm kind of moving back and forth between A and B for John Quincy Adams. Right now I'm going to keep him at A, and I'll give myself the opportunity to reevaluate that. So, Van Buren, for now, he's messy. He's a messy-looking dude. But I'm going to give him C. I think it looks a little cooler than Lincoln. I don't know how much you guys are agreeing or not with me right now, but I'm feeling okay about how I've placed them so far. So let's talk about top-tier beard. I think the best presidential beard is James Garfield. We have Hayes, who is pretty similar. I think Garfield's beard fits to his head shape almost perfectly. I think that is one of the best cases of presidential facial hair. So I think he is the first one that I would put in S tier. I think he, as far as presidents go, he's one of the better looking from his time, and one of the better looking politicians from his time. So I'd pop him up there. That's not bad. All right. So where would Hayes go? I think his beard is a little less clean looking, but it's on a similar tier. I don't think it works to his face nearly as well as Garfield's does. That's the difference between the two. So I think Hayes might be dancing around B tier, or I'm tempted to put him in A tier because it is a darn good beard. Maybe I'm biased towards longer beards. I think I am, because putting Harrison and Grant in B and putting him over in A. I think that does show my bias, but I think I'll pop him in B. I feel like B should be a pretty common category for presidential facial hair. Most of it probably isn't going to be God tier James Garfield beard having folks, and most of it probably isn't going to be Zachary Taylor barely having sideburns. And that's not a great picture of him either. I'm sure we're going by like the main picture that they have on their Wikipedia here, so I'm sure they've had good days and bad days, but we're going by like the main picture that people use for them. Mustaches. Okay, we've got mustaches left. With Chester A. Arthur, he's interesting because he's kind of got the stuff going on the side, but he also has the mustache, and it almost looks as if they like connect a little bit. It seems like there's like maybe a little gap here, but like they grow in a way that it really looks like it flows together. So are you okay with that? Does that work without having like the beard piece underneath? And I'm not as big of a fan of that. I think Chester might get C tier, but then I put him next to Van Buren, and I think it actually looks better than Van Buren's. He's got that might make me want to move Van Buren down to Lincoln's level. Okay. Yeah, I don't feel bad about that one. I feel okay about that. All right. So, we got the 3 mustaches, and I think we're in pretty good shape here. I'll tell you this much. Teddy Roosevelt and Taft are really going to be the standard for what makes a top-tier mustache. I think Teddy has a great mustache, and it works very well for his face. I think I'd give him A tier, but Taft... I'm a sucker for the handlebar mustache. That might not be a popular decision, but I still think the handlebar mustache is one of the coolest things. So that's the one thing that elevates him to S tier for me. Putting Taft above Teddy would probably have Teddy rolling in his grave, but I still think Teddy got a good spot. I'm starting to think I'm going to have to reevaluate some of these things. For our last person we haven't placed yet, and I am definitely going to take some time to maybe move some things around, we have Grover Cleveland. And while Teddy is more iconic than Grover Cleveland, I think their mustaches are on similar levels. I think if Grover Cleveland were a more popular president, people wouldn't really think too much of it. I honestly think wherever Teddy goes, I would put Grover Cleveland in a similar spot. I think Teddy's, it seems like it turns down a little bit more than Grover Cleveland's, but I think that's because of like his face. Okay, let's reevaluate some things. Because I think I do want to move some of these around now that I've thought about it. I think the chops are cool, but I think chops in general might be maxed out at B tier for me. There are some really cool ones out there, but I don't know. No. I was right the first time. It's staying at A. I'm down with that. I'm a fan of facial hair in general, so I feel like these things would generally skew upward. Does anybody else belong in S tier? I'm considering it for Teddy, but I think he is good, like leading the A tier here. And Grover Cleveland, it's really not different enough from Teddy to move him. And John Quincy Adams is King Chops. That's fine. All right. The one thing I am reconsidering is pretty much all of these guys in B tier. I don't know. It's like we got some solid beards there. And honestly, there's something about Hayes' forehead to beard ratio that isn't doing it as much for me, but I think the beard on its own, it's pretty good. I think Harrison has like a great air of respectability lent to him by the beard, and I think Grant does too. I think Grant is comfortable. I'm thinking about moving Harrison up. Not sure. I feel comfortable with Arthur, And while I do feel a little weird putting Lincoln so low, like, his beard is iconic, but it's not great. It's one of those things. Yeah, I was thinking about moving things around, but right now I feel okay about this. All right, we're setting it in stone, guys. This is what we got. This is what we're going with. We've got some fantastic facial hair among these people, and you know what? This is facial hair inherently better than not having facial hair in this case. I'm down with that because they went out of their way to distinguish themselves from the people around them, and I respect that no matter what. So Zachary Taylor, you may be F tier, but you are all winners in my heart. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Hella random, I know, but I thought this would be a fun way to test out the tier list format. So if you'd like to see any other things kind of like this, let me know the things you'd like me to rank. I already have presidential tier lists on my to-do list one day. I think that'll be a little bit down the line. I want to have a really well thought out video whenever I end up going into that. I want to make sure I research all the presidents sufficiently to pull that off. So yeah, that's a thing. But if there's any others you want me to do, let me know. Thank you for watching, and I will see you guys next time. Later.